Oh, man. We just cannot have nice things. 4 plays into Aaron Rodgers' Jets career, torn Achilles, out for the season. I'm distraught as a fan right now. I think you guys can tell. I think you guys are probably feeling the similar way. I can't even say like bright side. Like there is no fucking bright side. Like, I'm not going to do anything productive.
A lot of teams, including mine, had a rough week 1. But while my Bengals, the Giants, and the Steelers got blown out, teams like the Ravens, while they won, lost a lot of players to injury. So while I understand a lot of us have been through some traumatic week 1, what Jets fans just went through is absolutely brutal. And I feel for Jets fans. You spend the whole offseason on this long-ass saga trying to secure Aaron Rodgers. He goes into the darkness retreat, and then that's a whole story. Will he retire? Will he play? You're trying to manage expectations. He comes out of the retreat and he's still undecided. So you gotta have the ultimate patience if you're a Jets fan.
It's been 84 years.
Earlier this year on March the 7th is when it was first reported that Aaron and the Jets were having conversations. So Jets fans since 6 months ago has started to dream about this moment in the season opener at MetLife Stadium. We'll talk a little bit more about MetLife in a minute, and if you saw this vid I made about 9 months ago, then you probably already know where that conversation is headed. But March 15th, 2023, Aaron goes on Pat McAfee and makes every Jets fan's day.
I made it clear that my intention was to play, and my intention was to play for the New York Jets.
Okay.
And I haven't been holding anything up at this point. It's been compensation that the Packers are trying to get.
At that point, Aaron had officially confirmed what every Jets fan had been seeing rumors about for months. After watching them several times during the 2022 season, including when they played the Bengals, I felt their excitement because their defense was really, really good, and their young offensive weapons are some of my favorite in the league. Like a lot of people, I've been talking about Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson for the whole offseason, how they was gonna ball out with A-Rod. If you like ball, then you probably had similar conversations. And you know, Jets fans been dreaming about them taking the field this fall. April 24th, the Jets and Packers agree to terms. They swap first round picks and the Packers get a 2nd and a 6th, while the Jets get back just the 5th round pick. If you're thinking the Packers are secretly happy things didn't work out, you gotta remember that this injury hurts both teams involved. Remember, the deal also includes a conditional pick. If Aaron plays 65% of the snaps this season for the Jets, then Green Bay would get back a 1st round pick. But because he went down after 1% of the snaps, the Packers will now only get a 2nd round pick. So thanks to the injury, the Packers get a pretty small return for trading one of the best players we've ever seen in the league. And the Jets get nothing, no return at all on their massive investment. May 2nd, we see Aaron doing what he failed to do during his last season over there in Green Bay, bonding with the younger members of his team. Here you can see him at a Knicks game chilling with Sauce Gardner. August 7th, the good vibes carry into Hard Knocks as Aaron takes center stage in a leadership role. August 26th, the anticipation reaches a fever pitch as Aaron leads a touchdown drive against the Giants in the preseason. He capped that off with a touchdown pass to Garrett Wilson, which is what every Jets fan on the planet wanted to see. If I was a Jets fan at that point, my excitement for the upcoming season would have reached heights higher than Aaron Rodgers on an off-season retreat. But you go through all that back and forth, all that uncertainty, then 4 plays into the season, all your excitement ruptures. For this run out to be the only highlight of Aaron's brief Jets career, even the most hating non-Jets fan gotta admit that that's cruel. And unfortunately for them, bro, the Jets are no strangers to this type of bad luck when it comes to their quarterbacks. Vinny Testaverde was the #1 pick for the Tampa Bay Bucks back in 1987. He was a late bloomer in the league, not making his first Pro Bowl until 9 years into his career, in 1996. Then in 1998, Vinny signed with the Jets, made his 2nd Pro Bowl and led them to a 12-1 record. Then the next year, which would have been 1999, the Jets come into the season as big Super Bowl contenders. This is gonna sound familiar because in the first game, Vinny goes down with, you guessed it, Achilles. Vinny was present last night, bro, to finally pass the torch to another Jets quarterback who could get the job done. But with Vinny in the building, that old Jets cursed reared his ugly head once again. After Vinny Testaverde, Chad Pennington took over, but his best days were also cut short by injuries. Mark Sanchez had the butt fumble, Geno got his jaw broke by his own damn teammate, so you get this dude's frustration. Alright man, real quick before we jump back in, a quick word from today's sponsor, Aura. Are you tired of constantly getting spam phone calls to the point where you don't even really want to answer your phone no more? Data brokers are making a fortune selling your information to robocallers, spammers, and others who want to know more about you, like your phone number or where you live. Aura can identify data brokers exposing your information and submit opt-out requests on your behalf. Brokers legally have to remove your info if you ask, but they make it super hard to do. Let Aura handle it for you. Aura also does a lot more to protect you and your family from online threats that you may not be able to see. It's easy to set up, so you don't have to download different apps to get things like parental controls, antivirus, or VPN, password management, identity theft insurance. You get everything in one app at one affordable price, convenient, affordable, and highly effective. So let Aura do the hard work of keeping you safe online, so you can focus on other things and have a peace of mind. You can let folks keep exploiting and profiting off your private info, or you can go to aura.com/FlemLo. Do that to start your 2-week free trial today. You can click the QR code on the screen or click the link in the description. Man, shout out to Aura once again for sponsoring today's video. And without further ado, it's time to jump back in. If you are a Jets fan, I'm wondering at this point if you're now replaying the offseason and thinking about Lamar Jackson. The Jets decided to go all in on a 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers instead of the younger Lamar Jackson, who was kind of there for the taking. That said, Lamar's situation was much more complicated. He was on a non-exclusive franchise tag, so the Ravens have a chance to match. He'd have been more expensive financially and draft pick wise. Not to mention, over the past few years, Lamar has his own injury concerns. But with all of that being said, he's still 14 years younger, with a team that looked pretty good with Zach Wilson at quarterback. Somewhere in the alternate dimension is Lamar to Garrett Wilson. But that's what the mind does in hindsight. The fact of the matter is the decision to get Aaron Rodgers was a sound decision. It's hard to not second guess it, but bro, it was a good move, the right choice. You just got really unlucky. With that said, on some level it goes a little beyond luck, as there may have been something within the Jets' power. There's obviously no guarantee, but it might have changed this outcome. This brings us back to the MetLife Stadium turf. The MetLife Stadium turf has been a topic of conversation for years at this point, as it's become known for causing these types of non-contact injuries. But it's not just MetLife turf, it's turf fields in general. But MetLife has gotten more complex than just about any other surface. Many people watching, seeing the unnatural way his foot got stuck in the ground, have voiced their opinion that the turf is to blame, and to be fair, you don't see these type of injuries as much on grass. No matter how much they continue to improve the field turf, the fact remains it doesn't have the same properties as natural grass. It doesn't give the same way, it beats up on the joints, and sometimes your foot gets stuck in the ground, causing phantom injuries. So you could go and watch my full video on turf fields versus grass. After this, if you want to, I'd obviously appreciate it. But I'm actually gonna insert the intro to that video because I think it's the best way to summarize the turf conversation.
All NFL games should be played on grass fields.
Take care of your players, man.
Can we get rid of mother effing field turf in football? Can we get rid of it?
There's been a big battle brewing behind the scenes for years, just one of many fights between the league and its players. These groups being at odds is really nothing new, but this time, bro, it's a literal turf war.
I feel like it's something that they should take away from the game of football. We work so hard, and if turf field is one of the things that affect us as players, I feel like that's one of the things that they should take out the game if they really care about the protection of the players.
Out of all the NFL's 32 teams, have played their games on artificial turf. Since the first turf field back in 1968, the number's slowly gone up as time has gone on. After the briefest of Google searches, it's easy to see why. For NFL owners, turf's insanely convenient. It's more durable than grass, needs little to no maintenance, costs more to put in, costs less to maintain. It also allows venues to host other events without having to worry about their precious grass fields. With natural grass, you gotta always be thinking about foot traffic, which limits your ability to host and make money. Not to mention paying to have it mowed, overseeded, watered, top dressed, fertilized, etc. But while turf is cheaper, the studies have shown that when you're playing on turf, you're more likely to get injured. Even concussions that the NFL's fighting with these have been more severe when playing on this. How much better grass is depends on the study, but there's not one study that say turf is safer. And Giants and Jets fans is probably screaming at me in the comments because I probably took a little too long to mention this information, but I gave the info in a certain order for a specific reason because I'm building to something. Like, this is how I do my videos. But later in that old video, yes, I mentioned 9 months ago that MetLife Stadium announced a change to their playing surface. After years of player complaints and some bad non-contact injuries, they finally said enough is enough. Or did they? They didn't make the switch to the more expensive natural grass. They instead switched to improved field turf. This new turf was the first to boast a multi-layer, dual polymer monofilament fibers, but still didn't stop this. 4 offensive plays into the brand new season, in what you might call a cruel twist of fate, that turf could be responsible for effectively ending the career of what's probably the biggest Jets free agent ever. It's a pretty cold reality, and I wonder if Woody Johnson or the MetLife CEO are rethinking that decision. Whatever the price was, bro, to move to natural grass, if it meant a healthy Aaron Rodgers, it was probably worth it. Now, I wonder if the fact that the Jets and the Giants both share the field, if maybe they don't think natural grass could stand up to the wear and tear. When one of the teams is on the road, the other team's at home, so every single week that field would be getting run. But at the end of the day, man, these dudes is rich as hell, and they talk about how much they care about players' safety ad nauseum. So when there's a much safer option that we all know exists and 2 teams are splitting the bill, bro, they probably should have switched to grass. And like I covered in the video, bro, there's cold weather teams in the league like Green Bay, where Aaron Rodgers came from, who've used natural grass, I believe, since it's open. So I know climates are different, but like, bro, it's definitely possible. Longtime Packer and Aaron Rodgers' old teammate David Bakhtiari seems to feel the same way. Last night he tweeted this: "Congrats NFL. How many more players have to get hurt on artificial turf? You care more about soccer players than you care about us. You plan to remove all the artificial turf for the World Cup coming up, so clearly it's feasible. I'm so sick of this." And then to keep from saying what he really wants to say, he says, do better. He really makes a great point about the soccer players, as the league has promised to remove turf fields for the 2026 World Cup. Because like American football players, soccer players too, like most pro athletes, prefer natural grass to turf. Prefer ain't even strong enough. Soccer players demanded to play on natural grass, and the NFL listened. But their own players have complained about turf fields for decades, and all the league has really done is put out half-baked studies. There's one study out there who dares to push back, as the NFL says turf's just as safe as grass. The lower body injury rates between grass and synthetic over the past few seasons has decreased to the point where it's almost non-existent right now. Non-existent right now. Believe it or not, initially after taking this stance, they declined to release the data proving their point. But recently, this chart has been making the rounds. It's from the NFL, and I'm far from convinced. First off, it only uses 4 years of data, when field turf has been in use since 2002. How do you look at this and say there's no difference? Because they almost lined up 1 out of 4 years? But it is kind of wild that since 2018, injuries on grass have caught up to the turf. So they wanted us to see these turf injuries going down, but I also see natural grass injuries going up. Why would grass injuries be rising so crazy? I clearly don't know, but I do have a theory. So since half of all the fields use artificial turf, maybe we seeing the effect spread across different surfaces. Turf is known to put way more pressure on your joints, wearing players' bodies down slowly over the season. So the injury itself might occur on grass, but it's due to the extra strain caused by turf. That's a pretty solid theory you can get from this chart. And that's what I'm saying, like, this don't really prove nothing.
Hate playing on turf. The ground's harder when you hit it. More concussions happen on turf because of how the players' helmets hit the ground. I count every single game preseason, how many games I got on turf, just so I can mentally prepare. I'd rather practice in sleet, snow, thunderstorm with a chance of getting struck by lightning than to run inside on the turf.
So to summarize, artificial turf lost every single quarter, but the NFL's trying to convince us it's a tie. Y'all know what time it is. Cue the Wayne. So they put that out, but then the second the World Cup says, bro, we only plan on natural grass, then the league is like, of course, grass is better. And I actually didn't know about this, but according to Joe Pompliano, MetLife actually used grass this summer for a soccer match. He says instead of demolishing a 75-year-old stadium and rebuilding, they just took out a loan when interest rates was super low and then just renovated the existing structure. According to Joe, it's more advanced than anything in the NFL, and it's got a fully retractable pitch that can be stored beneath the stadium. Now, we've seen a couple of NFL stadiums do things similar, and exactly how these are different is beyond the scope of this video, but he points out that the Raiders and the Cardinals have removable fields, but he says that none of them are nearly as sophisticated as this. He says the storage space includes ventilation, air conditioning, irrigation systems, LED lighting, and control cameras, plus ultraviolet light therapy to maintain the grass. So the tech is out there, bro. You just gotta spend the money. And it feels like the league is constantly shooting itself in the foot or the knee or the Achilles by being stubborn about this. Do you know how many primetime games just lost hella viewership because Aaron Rodgers won't be under center? But back to Aaron, he's 40 years old and he was an inch away from retiring, so you have to wonder if he'll ever play for the Jets. But if you're a Jets fan, he does have a big incentive to go through that grueling rehab at 40 years old. He already gave up $35 million when he did the restructure, and if he walks away now, he'll lose another $60 million because NFL players forfeit future guarantees if they retire from the game entirely, you know? Now, I don't know what the timeline looks like, if he could just rehab and then get the money and then retire, I don't know. But it's hard to think he'll walk away and leave $100 million on the table. Not to mention, he really seems to like his new teammates. We gotta talk about the money side of it because that's a big motivating factor for any human in any walk of life with any set of responsibilities. But the human connection side could play a role in this as well. But we have seen in the past A-Rod go into A-Rod only mode. But maybe that love sprinkled with a little money can actually bring him back to the team, because the Jets overall team, bro, and credit to Robert Saleh, I think they had a real shot to be a very good team. With that said, I thought Zach Wilson really looked improved. He made some characteristic mistakes, but he did show some growth. I thought he played with a tenacity and a certain grit about him, and I think that actually went a long way to contribute to that win. With that said, no one thinks he's gonna have the same impact as the future Hall of Famer would on the Jets offense. Ideally, dude would get at least 1 year sitting behind Aaron before he had to step back in and play a meaningful game. I ain't sure if I said it yet, but bro, I feel for Aaron Rodgers, even though he moves in some ways that can be annoying at times. Maybe the darkness retreat didn't yield immediate results on a retirement decision, but it seems like he reflected on how things ended when he was in Green Bay, because the way that he ingratiated himself with the Jets, bro, the players and the fans, but just to have it all end before it ever got started, like, it's gonna be hard to bounce back from that. It was a weird night for Jets fans because you suffered that crushing blow a couple minutes into the game and it's just like, well, season over. But despite having a rug made from artificial turf just snatched from beneath them, they find a way to win. Jordan Whitehead comes up with 3 interceptions and the defense gets 5 sacks and recovers a forced fumble. Then the guy who is one of the big hits on this year's Hard Knocks, undrafted free agent receiver Xavier Gibson, he brings the good vibes back, bro, at least momentarily, but this is one of the moments that's better shown and not told.
What's up, dog? You good? You good?
Oh yeah, dog. I can't complain. You been nervous?
Man, am I?
Well, look, man, you know the odds are stacked against you from the jump, man. You did a lot of good things this camp. Yes, we appreciate your hard work. Just want to let you know, man, you're a New York Jet.
I feel like you scared me.
No, you earned it, bud. You're gonna do a lot of good things for us this year.
It's a short punt. Gibson on the return, near side. I don't see any flags. Gibson inside the 30. Hits the Jets. And he's gonna go. Jets win it. Touchdown, rookie Xavier Gibson. Game over.
If you're a fan of any team, how can you not empathize with Jets fans? A moment like this and you can't even enjoy it. You beat the Bills opening night on Monday Night Football, but at the same time suffer a blow that could mean your season's over. But in the NFL, things can change overnight. As fast as things go bad, they can shift just as quickly. But if you know a Jets fan, maybe buy them a drink or something, because their stint with their new QB seems to be over before it started.